converted me. See, you have to be convinced of the power of God to raise you from the dead to believe in Jesus. Do you believe Jesus died and rose from the dead? Some Christians are like, well, I don't know, but he was a really good person, so I believe in him. Man, you better get on your knees until God goes, boom, and you just like, oh God, you're real. You know, you need to have a moment like that with God. You need it. You see, it's the power of God that compels you to resist sin. The Bible says here, what did it say? It says that they walked in the fear of the Lord. It didn't say they walked in the grace of God. It says they walked in the fear of the Lord and in the comfort of the Holy Spirit. I love that juxtaposition because when you come into the confrontation, the reality of the power of God, as Saul did, I don't see Saul arguing at all. I'm thinking, hold on, this is a really smart guy. He gets blinded. He can't eat for 3 days. And then he gets his sight back. And he's like, I'm going to preach Jesus. Whoa, that was God. He don't care. He's crazy now. That's the power of God convincing a man to walk in obedience to God. That is the fear of the Lord. You see, when you're convinced of the power of God and you're truly compelled by the revelation of Jesus Christ and His power and the impending reality that you will one day be demolecularized and be placed as a consciousness only to sit and observe Him, you will have nothing to say because you won't have a mouth and teeth and eyes or ears. You'll just be there as an entity, a splinter of God's consciousness, observing the Creator of the universe, looking at your life on earth and saying, I will judge the principles by which you lived. And you can do nothing but observe your judgment. That reality is inevitable. If you don't believe me, go to a funeral home, go to a cemetery, go to a hospice. It's real. The dimension of that reality, the welcoming of the abyss happens to all of us. We die. But we don't think about it. We do. When you have that moment with God, and you realize that power, there should be a wisdom-infused reality that says, oh God, God, you're holy. I am not. Have mercy. Forgive me. Please. I'm a sinner. I agree. You're God. You're the creator of the universe. Everything about me that you gave me was yours. I'm sorry. I have no power. I can only observe your glory. But see, at that moment, for some people, it'll be too late. You see, it's in that moment that if you confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, you will receive the comfort of the Holy Spirit. Don't get it twisted. You can't treat God like a common thing. You can't treat Jesus like He's a dispenser of your holy blessings. Jesus is the King of the universe, the creator of all mankind. He's the Alpha and the Omega. Nothing was made or breathed into existence without Jesus first saying, okay, recognize who He is. He is the King, and He came among us. There should be a healthy fear, a reverence, a holiness that we have basically wiped our feet with. And that's why we sometimes find ourselves desperate and hungry and lonely and church hopping from one place to the next because we are not comforted by the Holy Spirit. We're comforted by flesh. We're comforted by community. We're comforted by our favorite sins that we go to every once in a while, and then we repent, and then we go back to Jesus, and then we pray, and we go back to Jesus. We're not comforted by the Holy Spirit because we don't walk in agreement with God. Our reality is not in agreement with God because we don't have a fear of God. But when you have that fear, because of that reality, the conversion begins to happen, and you're there finding yourself broken and destitute, and then God picks you up and goes, shh, it's okay. I love you. Don't be afraid. It's good that you're afraid, but you don't have to be afraid, because now you understand why you should be afraid. Do you get it? It's just about recognizing who God is. He doesn't want to lord His power over us. That's why we take it for granted the way we do. That's why so many people just treat Jesus like He's nothing. Every movie you go to, He's right next to your favorite cuss word. You think the devil does that by accident? God allows all of that to happen because He is good. He's waiting for us to get to that moment where we recognize, in spite of all the devil's doing to get us to be little who Jesus is, and that Holy Spirit comfort will come. So here we see in verse 32, Peter now goes off preaching. He's on fire for God. He's lighting up the world. He's writing 80% of the gospel epistles in the New Testament. I mean, Paul is off the chain. Paul, not Peter. Now we're entering Peter. So we see here in verse 32 that it came to pass as Peter went through all the parts of the country that he also came down to the saints who dwelt in Lydda. There he found a certain man named Aeneas, who had been bedridden 8 years and was paralyzed. And Peter said to him, Aeneas, Jesus the Christ heals you. Excuse me. Arise and make your bed. Then he rose immediately, so all who dwelt in Lydda and Sharon saw him and turned to the Lord. At Joppa there was a certain disciple named Tabitha, which is translated Dorcas. This woman was full. This woman, who would name their kid Dorcas today? Just leave it out. Just call her Tabitha. That's nice. You know? Why add the commentary? I don't understand that. Why that's even in. But anyway, it says this woman was full of good works and charitable deeds, which she did. But it happened in those days that she became sick and died. She was working way too much ministry. When they had washed her, they laid her in the upper room in Lydda. And since Lydda was near Joppa, and the disciples had heard that Peter was there, they sent 2 men to him, imploring him not to delay in the coming to them. Then Peter arose and went with them. When he had come, they brought him to the upper room, and all the widows stood by him weeping, showing the tunics and garments which Dorcas had made, while she was with them. But Peter put them all out, and he knelt down and prayed. And turning to the body, he said, Tabitha, arise. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up. Then he gave her his hand and lifted her up. And when he had called the saints and widows, he presented her alive. And it became known throughout all of Joppa, and many believed on the Lord. So it was that he stayed many days in Joppa with Simon the tanner. So we have 2 people here. We have Peter and Paul. So Paul goes off to be a witness for Christ, and now we enter Peter, because this is the story, this is the Acts of the Apostles. So I'm going to ask the worship team to come up as we close out. And then when we're done worshiping, I'm going to ask all who are going to be baptized, get ready, change your clothes, whatever you got to do, and we're going to go and do baptisms. But before we do that, this is an interesting story of someone who dies and rises from the dead. Now I would ask, what's the most dramatic thing? Because when you read that, you go, wow, that was really dramatic. They saved that for last. Why wasn't that in the beginning? You see, Paul was dead. He had this confrontation with God, and he was born again. He was resurrected. This woman who was a servant of God, she physically died, and Peter visited her, and she was physically resurrected. Now, I don't know the relationship Peter and Paul had. But as I read through the book of Acts, as I read the life and times of the apostles and the disciples of Jesus Christ, there's 2 things that really stand out that create jealousy in my heart. 2 things. Passion for God and power of God. There's other things. There's fear of the Lord. There's joy. There's koinonia. There's community. There's charity. There's crazy adventures. There's martyrdom. There's everything. But the 2 things that really stand out to me as far as, man, these people had a passion for Jesus they were radical. They were being killed. They were being persecuted. If we were doing this 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, probably half of us would be dead by next month. But we were witnessing so powerfully and so passionately that we'd be replaced by another 10 people, equally or more passionately than ourselves. See, today that's not a church growth model, is it? It's not fear of the Lord, comfort of the Holy Spirit. It's promote, event, fun stuff. And I love all of that. But I will never negate the reality that we look at in Scripture. They had a passion for God. They had an experience of the power of the presence of God. I hunger for that. I want to grow in my passion for God. I pray that we sharpen and promote each other's passion for God in our relationships. I ask and pray and I say, God, we want your power. I know it's your prerogative. And I'd love to see you do some cool stuff in Fuel Life. I'd love to see you do some cool stuff in Davy. And he has been doing some cool stuff. And he's been doing some amazing things in small groups and in private sessions. And I got to tell you, there's moments where I go, God, what are you going to do next year? God's real. If you're doubting that, and you're not sure in your heart that he's the most real thing to you, I want to give you an opportunity right now to just declare and agree with him that you want him to be the most real thing, that you want to give your life to Jesus Christ, if you've not given him your life, if you've not yet committed to fully follow him, I just want to give you this moment, I'd love to pray with you. Just stand up right where you are. If that's you, just stand up right where you are. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you guys. Is there anyone else? All right. Everyone else is going to heaven. They're all safe, right? So let's pray, and we're going to celebrate.